is practicing and all of that. If you do come across any problems at all, please don't hesitate to let us know. I'm trying to go live. The meeting is streaming now live on YouTube, I suppose. Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, Regina, you are welcome. There have been some changes to the class where you now have to come in and you go through the room, because we are trying to keep a tab on what is happening in the room, so we don't have all those distractions like it's been happening in the last couple of classes that we have had. Tonight we will be discussing still on writing task 1, and then I want us to have some form of decorum to some extent in the class, please. If you are in this class, remember, if you don't have your video on, I'll take you out, and once you are out of the class, you will not be able to join again. As much as possible, stay in a very conducive environment, avoid noise as much as possible, so that when we ask you to unmute to say anything or to answer a question or something, we don't get distracted from the noise in your background or anything of that nature. So this evening, a couple of you did the question I did say we should try. I'm quite happy. Okay, I'm happy with the update. I'm happy with what's happening. So many of you, the ones that I saw, I may not have commented, but I saw that there are some improvements. The ones I saw that really needed commenting on, I did try to comment. And there's one of us also that is trying to correct some of your essays, and just take corrections, make use of this opportunity. If someone is being corrected on something, you can actually take that correction and effect it in your own as well. It will go a long way to help you, redress your essays and your writings, and at the end of the day, you come out with a perfect work. So yes, you are welcome. I'm seeing some of you for the very first time in this year. Happy New Year to you. The year is still new. Yes, today is just 28th of January, and we hope that this year many of you will be able to do more for yourselves, in terms of writing your exams and other processes. So yes, writing task 1. Writing task 1. We were able to talk about writing task 1 extensively. We talked about the introductory part of it, and we were able to do a particular question type last week. And I did give an assignment on line graph. That assignment on line graph, or that work I said we should do from Cambridge 15, test 2, I think, the writing task 1, was a line graph, and I purposely asked us to do it because that line graph, what we discussed about the bar graphs, is also applicable to the line graph. So based on that, we will do that correction, or we will just go through that work that we did about the line graph. All right, that work we did on the line graph, we will go through it and see what is on there for us. Okay, so tonight it is line graph. Line graph, I'm looking for something, that particular one, so we can share it and discuss. So I'll share my screen with you. Let's see, share screen. This is what I want to share. I hope we all have our writing materials with us, yeah? Can you see my screen? Can you all see my screen? Yeah? Is my screen visible to you? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good. So here we are. Let's see, there are some people in the waiting room. Let's bring them into the class. Okay, so this writing task 1 says that you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The graph below shows the number of tourists visiting a particular Caribbean island between 2010 and 2017. I think that's over a period of how many years now? Over a period of 7 years. Okay, and based on what we discussed, we said that you will, first of all, from the last class about writing task 1, what we know how to do is that we must have a structure where we write an introduction and an overview. And that introduction, we get our words or our sentence, our paragraph from a paraphrase of the question prompt, okay, using synonyms and our overall statement. Please stop moving in and out of the class, okay? Stop leaving and coming back into the class, all right? So you don't distract, because as it is now, I have to admit you into the class and it's distracting, especially when I'm trying to share my screen with you. So many things will be coming up on the screen. Okay, so here we are. What do we do with our introduction? We get the synonyms, we get our keywords first of all. The keywords here, we have the graph, we have below, we have shows, number, tourist, okay, we have Caribbean island, and then the number of the years, okay, over that period of time. So for the graph, we can say this is a picture, this is a diagram, all right, it shows, okay, it illustrates, it portrays, all right, and then the number of tourists, okay. You know that when you are using number, you cannot use words like amount, because amount is not, in this case, something that you can use for number. You can't say the number of money, but you can say the amount of money, isn't it? If you say the number of money, then it is wrong. So now we have the number of tourists, okay, visiting a particular Caribbean island. This Caribbean island, we may not have a particular synonym for it, but we can have, Caribbean island could be a foreign island, a foreign attraction center or center of attraction between the time that's what here now, 2020 and 2017. That's over a period of time, over a period of 7 years. All right, or you can say from 2010 to 2017, okay, over a period of 7 years. Now, having gotten the words that you want to use as your synonyms, you go ahead and you paraphrase that statement. The given diagram is what? An illustration. The given diagram is an illustration of tourists. Who are tourists? What are other words for tourists? What are the other words that we can use for tourists? Can you give me words that we can use for tourists?
Excursionists.
Excursionists can be used. What other words?
Visitors.
Visitors can be used. But you know that visitors, there's a difference between who is a tourist. A tourist is not just a visitor. I showed you how to get synonyms with speed the other time, didn't I? I showed you how to get synonyms. I told you where to go to get synonyms on your phone. And if you are doing that, you don't have to log out. So that while you are in class, the class is participatory. You can you can multitask. Yeah. So who is a tourist? Can somebody define a tourist for me so that when you are using those words, you know which word fits in? Who is a tourist? A tourist is who? A pleasure seeker, someone who is visiting for the sake of pleasure. The person is going to a place. A visitor may come for a particular purpose and not for pleasure. Somebody can say maybe they visited for a condolence or something. Is that, you can't use that word visitor generally to cover all of them. You can't generalize to the word visitor. So there are some synonyms that you can use for tourists. If you go to your phone, I want to make it easy for you so that you can easily, like get the words. All right. So if you go to your phone and you type tourist, synonyms for tourist, you will see them. Very many of them. Bosede, give me 2 words for tourist. Where is she? Bosede, give me 2 words for tourist. Deborah, give me a word that I can use to replace tourist.
It's the excursionist that I know.
Only one?
Yes, ma.
So if we use excursionists all through, what will now happen? What about sightseers?
Okay, or pleasure seekers.
Okay, you have agreed that there's more than one word, isn't it?
Yes, ma, I do.
Okay, so for the sake of this class, you can use sightseers, you can use pleasure seekers, you can use traveler, you can use visitor. Okay, those are visited for pleasure. Okay, you can like say that statement. Those that visited is showing, or it portrays or illustrates the number of people, individuals that visited a particular Caribbean island for pleasure over a period of 7 years. Now they say summarize the information by selecting. So overall, for you to get an overall statement, what did I say? An overall statement for you is like concluding, all right, concluding before you even start. So it's like a summary. It's like you have looked at this and you've seen that visitors from different areas, let's see. I may need to open it. I'm trying to make it bolder so that we can really see. Okay, so we have visitors that are staying on the cruise ship. Those three, we have 3.3 variables on there: the light green, the red, and the blue. So the blue is for visitors that stay on the cruise ship. Then the red shows visitors that stay on the inland, while on the island, sorry, while the light green is the total, all right, of all of them. So eventually, if you look at this line graph very well, some people are here. Let's see if we can have them admit. Good, they're all here now. So if we have all of them, if we add all these people together, that's what they are telling us about the total. Now, your work is to check and tell me, give me an overall statement by merely looking at this diagram, merely looking at this picture that you have before you. If you say I should say an overall statement from this, I know what to tell you. Deborah, are you seeing the diagram?
Yes, I'm seeing it, ma.
Good. Can you give me an overall statement? Just say an overall statement from what you can see here. In your overall, you should be thinking of anything that has increased, that started low and ended high, or that started high and ended low. Something significant, something that there's a striking change, all right, over this period of time. Something that you can see just at merely looking at this thing without saying or without long, English. That thing that you can notice
Okay.
on time is what should be your overall statement. Can you give an overall statement?
Okay. Overall, um, overall, the number of sorry, ma. So I'm trying to put myself together. I'm walking on the road. Sorry.
Oh, you're walking on the road. That's fine.
Yes, ma'am.
In that case, when you have, let me just explain this so that we can get to work then. When you have this diagram before you, what is expected of you to do as per the line graph? You can mute your mic so we can hear. Okay, fine. So what you will have to do is to write an introduction for this statement, write an introduction, and in your writing of that introduction, the information that your introduction should contain should be a paraphrase of the question prompt and then an overall statement. That will be your first paragraph. All right. Then looking at these variables here, you will now think of what should come in your overview. Your overview should be like the most important things about this. And then I told you that your overview should have 2 paragraphs so that all your writing in tax 1 will carry 3 paragraphs. Okay, so if you are looking for 2 paragraphs and you have 3 variables to write on, and the years are from 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you need to think of a dividing point. What information am I going to bring in paragraph 1 and in paragraph 2? What am I going to write about? Okay, so you look for the highest and the lowest to talk about. You look at the ones that fluctuated and how often. You look at the variables that remain unchanged. But in this case now, you are going to pick these variables and discuss them one after the other. Now you can join the 2 variables about the red and the blue. I think that is the visitors that stay in the cruise ship and those that stayed on the island. You can talk about them. All right. Then you pick the total and talk about it as per the end of it. Or you pick one of the variable with the total, then you discuss, okay, and then you talk about the other one in a different paragraph. That way, you are doing 2 things at the same time. You are highlighting and you are summarizing. In writing task 1, it's not all of them that you finish and you say, okay, you have a statement or you have a paragraph for summary, a paragraph for highlighting. No, as you are highlighting, you are summarizing. You are going along with it. I say highlight and summarize sometimes, okay? So when you see that one, you will not say, okay, this paragraph now is for my highlight. Now, examiner, this paragraph is for my summary. No, as you are highlighting, you are giving a summary of the whole thing at the same time. I've had people ask that question. So you don't write a highlight separately and a different summary separately. It's not done that way. Do we understand? Does it make sense to anybody? Can you take a screenshot of this and let's do this work? Or you want me to leave it on the screen? Let me stop sharing and see. For those of you just
hard to remember the people we used to be. It's even harder to remember you're gonna right next to me. You say, what is it too late to try? I'm not too late.
A las 12 me llaman, le dio onda culia. Ella quiere que le chante una culia. Le chupo los sobacos, no anda con wea. Es terrible aguja la gila culia.
Okay, we'll get there. The thing is, what is going to happen at the end of the day is that it's going to deprive many people of being able to come into the class. You understand? Because as it is now, having succeeded in removing that person, I will not want to admit another person because that may be that person coming in again as a different name. Do you understand? So yes, we should have a clear class. No more admitting again. Aha, that's the guy. That's him there. I've seen one of the name that he or she or whoever is using. Whew. Anyway, I think this class, the number okay for now. Please don't go out of the class, because if you go out of the class, there may be chances you won't be able to come back in. Okay? All right, so as much as possible, sorry about that distraction. We will get there somehow. This is not even a paid class where you see somebody is trying to hack. You see people trying to like help each other, and somebody is there trying to create issues for others. Okay. Boss Ede, is Boss Ede still in this class? Boss Ede, is Boss Ede still in this class? Boss Ede Olalusi, if you don't have your video on, I will take you out of the class without wasting time, because this is like destabilizing me and it's not good for any of us. All right. You're welcome to the class this evening. I'm just going to do a total roundup of what we have been saying because some of you joined the class late. So we have been talking about writing task 1. Okay. Writing task 1 is where you are expected to have not less than 150 words, and it happens in 20 minutes. It's part of the writing task. Okay. The writing task has task 1 and 2 and is for 1 hour. So writing task 1 is the part where you have a diagram given to you. Writing task 2, you have to do more of your thinking from your head. But task 1, you have a diagram, and the diagram can come in different forms. Okay, it can be a process graph, it can be a map, it can be a line graph, it can be a bar chart or a pie chart. Irrespective of what it is, or even a floor map, that does not matter. What matters is that you are able to get the structure and you are able to make use of the band descriptors. Last week, we did discuss the band descriptors and what you are expected to have in these band descriptors. Please, if you are not If you were not in this class last week and you will want to or like to have or know what we did in the last class, go back to the YouTube channel and watch the previous class on this particular subject of writing tax 1. And you will bring yourself, up to date with what we are doing so we can flow together. So writing tax 1 last week, we did discuss the bar graph. Today we will discuss bar chart. We talked about the structure of the writing tax 1, and I did say to us that you should have 3 paragraphs. Make use of the 4 band descriptors. We mentioned the band descriptors and we talked about them at length. So if you want to, if you were not in that class, please go watch it so you can bring yourself in line. We can all run at the same pace, okay? Yeah. So you have a structure. There's a step for you to follow. Okay, there's a step where I did say that for you to fulfill that structure, you need to do a few things. One of them is the use of synonyms. Okay, you need to know what synonyms are there for you to use relating to what subject you have been given, what topic is in your exam or in your paper before you. Another thing I did say was that you need an overall statement. The overall statement is not a different paragraph from your introduction, okay? So the overall statement and the paraphrase of the question prompt that you are giving using synonyms is what will give you an introduction. Then you have the overview. The overview is where you have 2 paragraphs. These 2 paragraphs, the information there is dependent on the type of question that you have. The type of question that you are giving will determine the information in those 2 paragraphs. At the end of the day, you have 3 paragraphs together giving you your writing tax 1 structure. The step-by-step for you to follow in your writing tax 1, I did mention it before, and I will not hesitate to list them again or to say them. You need to know this step for every task in writing tax 1. All right? For every task in writing tax 1, you must follow the steps. Number 1 is for you to read the task, then paraphrase the words, identify the type of information that you are giving, identify your highlights, work out a summary mentioning your key points, and then plan the structure by grouping your data. Go ahead and write your answer. Make sure you have at least 2-3 minutes to proofread your work and correct your, errors, the bits of errors that you can correct. You need to have a little bit of time, like 2-3 minutes for you to do that, so that you can avoid too many mistakes that will cost you very important marks. I did mention that we have problem of timing, time management, like you are in a haste, you are rushing to answer the question without properly reading the task, all right? Then frequency of error. All of this you can avoid if you practice over time. For you to improve in writing tax 1, you need to learn the structure and grading of the test. You know the band descriptors and what they represent so that you are able to give your examiner the information that the examiner needs. Okay. All right. There are some people in the waiting room and can't join, and they are sending messages to me personally. All right. Anyways, we need to move on without them. So I was saying that you need to know the kind of words that are related to the task that you are writing. That way you won't write off points and your work will be so concise and it will be full of the information that your examiner needs from you. Last week we talked about bar chart, and this week, and we also did mention something that are related to line graph. It is that line graph that I made us to do in that Telegram class, okay? I sent in that. If you've not done it, you can go to Cambridge 15 tax 2, I think test 2, and then the writing task 1 there is a line graph talking about the number of tourists. I've shared the screen with us, and I'm still going to share the screen with us so that we can easily do it in this class this evening. What I want from you is words that are not less than 150, okay, in that writing that you're about to do for me. Give me an introduction telling me what happened or what is happening, all right, just by merely looking at it, and that will be your overall statement. Then for your overview, you have to give me 2 paragraphs making use of those 3 variables. The 2 paragraphs from these 3 variables is at your own discretion to choose what 2 variables you will bring together, okay, and what 1 variable you will leave on its own, depending on what you think you know about it. But in all of the things that you are going to be writing, do not forget, okay, don't forget to write about the ones that started low and ended high. Okay, the numbers that were in between. For instance, if I am going to pick the passenger, sightseers that came in and they were leaving, staying in the cruise ship, that's the color blue. In 2010, we started just a little below, a little above 0, okay, 0 million, just a little above. And then as at 2011, it had increased to about 0.5. And then there was a very drastic reduction, okay, where it fell in 2012 to almost the same level it was as at 2010. And it increased again in 2013. Then this increase kept on in 2014, and in 2015, you will be quoting what the number is for those years. All right. And somehow around between 2015 and 2016, there was an interception with those that stayed on the island, and it attained its peak in 2017. On what number? You will quote the number. So that number should be just a little bit above 2 million. With all of this that I have said, you heard me talk about dramatic, sudden reduction, okay, and then gradual increase, and it kept on going, all right, and moving and intercepted. Those are the words that I want you to use. We did use some of these words last week, and I did mention them to you. Gradually, okay, suddenly, or sudden, gradual, sudden, dramatic, significant, and all that. You need to make use of those important words. I can list them. I can list some of them for us. Again, if you have your pen with you, the verbs, I mean the adverb, the adjectives, okay, that are related to this line graph this evening that you are going to be writing is words like significant, dramatic, sudden, substantial, sharp. You make use of your discretion and use them where necessary. We have adjectives like consistent. There was a consistent growth, all right, from around 2015 up until the end of the period. There was a consistent increase in the number of people that came in, all right, and it was constant. Okay, so you have words like slight, gradual, marginal, if it was very small. But the change that happened with those that stayed in the cruise ship, there was no marginal change on there. It was more or less a very dramatic change, because that reduction from the year 2011, it fell down, it fell to the level it was before. So there was a slip back to where it was before. It slipped. Do you understand the word I used there? So when you are using slip, it's not just an ordinary reduction. It's a reduction that took it to the level where it was previously. A level where it was, but has increased from that level, and now it has gone back to that level. So it slipped back again to where it was, to the number of 2010. Now, if you pick the other one, you can use some of these words still. So if you are going to talk about changes that occurred, you can say a dramatic shift, a significant change, a sudden rise, a substantial gain, or a sharp decrease, or a consistent flow, like we had that consistent increase, all right, or a steady movement. You can also use that. Or if you want to say it consistently increased, you know what to use. So if you are using these words either as an adverb or as an adjective, you know that using the adverb, using them as adverbs, you need the ly to add to them. You can't just say you are using a word as an adjective when you are saying significant. That would be an adverb. You have to say something that has to do with significantly. Maybe it's significantly increased or decreased, all right, or changed over time or something. So those are the words that you are expected to use with them. If there was an upward rise, you can talk about them. If it was downward, then overall, what did you see? Overall, at the end of 2017, it was noted that what? The number of people that stayed on the cruise ship in that island increased over this period of 7 years. You have finished about one variable, and you have enough words and enough sentences for it to form a paragraph for you. Then you go over to the second variable. What is the second variable? The second variable is talking about the people that stayed on the island. The people that stayed on the island. That's the red one. I'll share it so that you can see it when you're writing. Okay. The people that stayed on the island, it started a little bit off from maybe around 0.7. Okay. And then it was like not increasing. Okay. Until 2011. And then there was a sharp rise. And then it increased gradually up to 2013, where it maintained that level, then decreased again, to increase over the years, decreased again, to like rise. Because we are careful of the words. Like I found myself saying the word decrease like 2-3 times. So words, other words that you can use to describe an upward trend. When something rose, when something shifted, when it moved upwards, okay, when it increased. So those are the words that you can use. And just like we did with the first variable, you start from the beginning of that variable up until the end of it and give an overall statement. What did you see? You are not going to always say overall, but you can say something like, it was noted that at the end of 2017, there was a fluctuation, okay, in between. However, the number of people that visited the Caribbean island over this period of time increased or decreased, if that's what you saw. Then the total of them all is just 1 or 2 lines that you need to write, and you can add that to your last paragraph. At the end of the day, you have your 3 paragraphs, and all the information that is there on that map has been covered as much as possible. You may not cover everything, but about 90-95% of the information should be covered so that you have enough words that will give you above 150. I told us that as much as possible, we should try to have at least 160, 170. 175 should be maximum. Okay, so if you wrote a writing task 1 and you are getting 250 words or 260 or 200 words, it's too much. And if you read very well, you find out that you have committed some errors. So I'll share this with us. I'll share this with us and we can get to write. Before then, do we have any question about what I just explained? If you are confused, let me know so that we run at the same pace. Are you confused about anything? If you were not in our last class, don't take us back to the last class. You can go back and read, listen to the last class so you come aboard. For this class, what I have discussed in this class, if you don't understand, let me know and I will explain myself again. Any question about this class? No question. Please get on your writing pad. Remember our rules. You are getting like the time you will get in the exam is 20 minutes Write me an introduction and the overview. Don't send one, send two, send three. No, write everything and send it at once together. Number one. Number two, please don't stay in the class without doing anything. It's for your own good. If you like, you may decide not to write. That's just your own whatever, because it's the more you write, the more you get corrected, or we correct in class here. That's when you know where and which thing or which area to improve upon. So this is 9. Okay. I'm sharing the screen with us so that we can all see it.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, ma, go ahead.
Is it only the introduction we are writing now?
No, ma, we're writing everything. I've explained everything already, so write everything, yeah?
Okay.
I'm trying to. Some of us have this picture already. We have it already. So just go ahead and write about it. Anyway, I'm sharing it with us. It's also on the Telegram group. Okay. Now you have, this is 9. This is what time is this? This is 7:42 here. That's 8:42 by your time. So I will assume that we should end at 20 minutes from now. That would be 9:02 on your side. So 9:05, by 9:05, please make sure it's posted so that we can read through and see our mistakes and correct ourselves. I'm going to sit here. I will not talk so that I don't disturb you. You can concentrate and do your work. Your time starts now. You should start rounding up your work so you can have time. Train yourself like you are under exam and condition. You should start rounding up so you can have time to go through what you have written.
I don't know. What is your name? Okay. So that the always resources. Yes.
Time up. Now send in the work. Let's see your work. Why can I not see anybody's work? Thank you. I've just seen one person. Two. Deborah, what happened to the remaining part of your work? Okay, how many people did the work? How many of you wrote? Because I can only see 3 answers here. We were more than that before you people started leaving one after the other because we won't keep to rules. Okay. The diagram illustrates the number of sightseers who visited a Caribbean island from 2010 to 2017. Overall, the travelers who stayed on a cruise ship increased significantly over the years, while those who stayed on the island maintained a number over the course of 3 years. Was it only 3 years that those people stayed there, or they stayed from the beginning to the end? So from what I can notice, okay, from what I can note, what I have noticed rather, in the people that stayed on the island, there was fluctuations. There was fluctuations. So if you mention, you that wrote this, if you mention that overall, those in the cruise ship, their number increased, okay? Increased significantly over that period of time. While those that were on the island, that stayed on the island, fluctuated, all right? Fluctuated because there was a time it was low, there was a time it was a bit high, although it was never higher than the other at any point. If those on the island, on the cruise ship increased significantly over the years, and you want to say something about those on the island, then you should say what it is, not just picking one particular part from it. I don't know if you understand what I'm explaining. Don't just pick an area, all right, because you're not writing only for 2013 to 2015. So the first part of your writing is perfect. It's very good, okay? The first part is good. Overall, the travelers who stayed on the cruise ship, and it should be on the cruise ship. It's not on a cruise ship because there are not several cruise ships there. It's on the cruise ship. There's just one cruise ship and there are those on the island. All right. So those that were in the cruise ship significantly increased from the point they started in 2010 until 2017. It increased over the years. While those on the island, their number fluctuated in between, although there were periods where it remained unchanged. Full stop. Also, you don't have to quote the number in your overall statement or in your introduction. Don't quote number for me. You can quote the year, you can say the year when you are doing your paraphrasing. But in your overall statement, avoid figures, avoid quoting percentages, because that is what you're going to be writing about in your overview. Do you understand? So don't bring in your overview to your overall. You need to know the difference between them. Apart from the fact that you messed up the B part of your overall, you would have had a very good overall statement for me. So if you want to mention the period that it maintained, that it remained unchanged, you want to mention it, that's perfect. So you can go ahead and tell me that it remained, it fluctuated over the period, over the entire period, although there were times when it remained unchanged. Because the time it remained unchanged is noticeable and it's very significant. So you can say that although it remained unchanged in that period or in a particular period, but generally there was a fluctuation for that particular variable. Then you can move to your overview. You pick one. You said the number of travelers who stayed on the island remained at 0.75 in the first 2 years. Is that correct? From what we have here, is that correct? Is that correct? Yeah? And don't forget that this thing is in million. So why has nobody been able to quote million here? You've not said anything about that one. Please don't forget the units, okay? If it is percentage, if it is just numbers, if it is in thousands, if it's in tens, if it is in millions, what you have on the X and the Y axis, you need to mention them. You need to say what they are, okay? So I think that your starting with that is rather not so good. You can start your statement by saying, for travelers who stayed in the cruise ship, comma, then you can continue. So that I know you want to talk about that variable for those that stayed on the cruise ship. Do you understand? This correction is for everybody now. It's not just for the person that wrote. Because some of you didn't write anything at all. It's like, you know it so much, you know it too much, and you're just wasting your time being here. It's entirely up to you, though. So yes, you know that when you don't participate in a class activity, you don't know where you make mistakes so that you can be corrected. You don't know. So I encourage you to participate, answer questions, ask questions. When you are wrong, you are corrected, and then you move. Okay? All right. So if you are starting that way, you can start by saying that for those, or for travelers, for sightseers, for tourists. Because I said you should paraphrase and use synonyms does not mean that it's prohibited for you to mention at least once tourists or the word they used at least once in that your entire write-up. It's not prohibited, but that we don't want you to repeat the same thing over and over, making it look like you don't have enough vocabularies to support what you're writing. Okay? So if you start, for travelers in the cruise ship, the number remained unchanged for the first 2 years. Then you can talk about on 0.75. However, there was a dramatic change or a dramatic increase. There was a dramatic change between the year 2011 and 2012, where it increased to a little below 1.5 million. And then gradually increased, all right? Gradually went up or gradually experienced an upward movement till 2013, where there was a slight decrease over the years. This decrease continued until 2015, therefore making it to experience a period where it remained unchanged. Then gradually it reduced. I've used decrease, I've used reduce so that you won't repeat yourself too much. To 2015, and then increased or went up again in 2017, where it experienced the highest. I think that's the highest. Is that the peak of it? I can't see well, but if that is the peak of it, you should mention. If that's not the peak of it, anywhere that it attained its highest score or the peak, you should try and mention it. Okay, I think the peak is around 1.5, which happened maybe in 2013. If you have a good look at it, you will notice. If it's not there, then it's in 2017. All right, remember to mention the peak, the places attained the highest, the lowest. All right, the areas it remained unchanged, where it fell dramatically or significantly, or where it rose steadily or sluggishly. Like that rising between 2012 and 2013 was a very sluggish one. If you look at it, you will even think that there was no increase at all. It was a very sluggish rise. So those are the words you can use to qualify it, okay? I explained it before we started writing so that you have an idea of what you should write. Now for the second part of the question, the second part of it, that's for the, if you have written, however, the pleasure seekers who stayed on a cruise ship started with, wow. Please don't confuse yourself. Remember to have coherence in your write-up. Remember to maintain cohesion between your work. Let your examiner be able to read and understand you without having to ask you questions. Remember, they will not come to your house and ask you, what do you mean by this that you wrote, when they are marking your exam scripts? Ideally, you start from one, then move to the other. On no account should you have a mix-up in your work, especially when the variables are clearly differentiated. Okay? So if those on the cruise ship, they started from, if you're writing, please write about the one that is below first before you go to the one that is highest, that is up, so that you can have a progression. That's what your cohesion means. Let there be a progression between your work where you move from point A to point B and not from point A to C then back to B. It shows you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. Overall, I like the fact that this person was able to get up to 162 words. And not just that, you mentioned some very valiant, important points in there. But your first paragraph, your first paragraph for the overview is too short. So if you find out that that paragraph is really going to be short, then you add that variable with the one of the total so that you can have a paragraph that is rich enough. Then use cohesive devices to link it. There's something I noticed with you though, where you wrote however twice. In one paragraph, you are using one word, one linking device twice, as if it does not exist again anywhere else, or there's nothing else for you to use. Please, as much as possible, avoid that, okay? Deborah, your overall statement, I don't understand. The given chart illustrates the number of sightseers. It is sightseers, sight as in S-I-G-H-T, sightseers. They are coming to see places, okay? And they are not, it's not sight as in, they are not looking for a site. They are not looking at a site where you are going to build houses. This one is the wrong use of word in this context, all right? They decided to tour a foreign island between the space of 7 years. That's good. And the values are experienced. I really don't need that, your value experience thing. I don't know where you people got that from, but I don't think it's right. I don't know. I've not met any examiner who says they penalize a student for using that, but ideally and grammatically, I don't think it is right for you to bring that in. Okay? Overall, there are two groups. Overall, they are grouped into two sets. Wow. This your overall statement is not correct. Is by no means correct at all, if I can say that. Okay? Overall, of course, there are two groups. We know there are two sets of people. Then there's no need telling me the first set. Just mention, pick from what they used. Okay? I don't think it's right for you to like say things that are vague. Yes, if I can use that word, yes. They are vague and it's not self-explanatory. Your write-up should be as clear as possible, please, so that your examiner can read and understand and give you your full mark and you get out from the exam and know you have done and you have finished. Yeah? So that overall statement, please write it again, Deborah. Then After your overall statement, there should be a full stop and you start your overview. Here you have written an overall statement. I don't know how you want to continue writing. However, those said that stayed, fluctuated and reached its peak, you are already giving the report in your introduction. This is not correct. This is the information that you should give me in your overview, okay? This information goes to your overview. Your overall statement should just give me what you can see at a glance, and that's all. Yeah? Let me see another person's work. The given diagram illustrates the number of excursionists that toured a certain Caribbean island over a period of 7 years. Full stop, please. Full stop. Your overall starts with a capital letter. It was noted that the number of people increased significantly over the years through, although there were some fluctuations in between. Is it the number of everybody that increased? Won't you say something? Won't you compare that, the variables? Won't you compare them? The number of visitors that stayed on the cruise ship. Why starting with the number of? Why not say something like I did try to correct the first person? Like for those on the cruise ship, pick a variable, don't speak too much grammar, go straight to the point, give us the correct words that we want, and get out. Okay? The following year, however, there was a slip back to a little above zero. Zero what? A little above zero what? Yeah? When you know this is ambiguous, you can say something a little above 0 point something and use the 0 points, then write the million. In this case, you are written zero. Zero what? 0 million in 2012. Just mention the first variable, mention the point, the number, quantity. If you can't say a little above and get it correctly, write about. It can be about 500 people. Besides, you must not be using all these points. Me and you know that another word that we can use for 0.5 million is what? 500,000, isn't it? Is it not correct? So if you take you can say 500,000. In this case now, you can, okay, a little above 0.3 million. You can say about 300 people, about 300 individuals, okay? About 300,000, yeah? About 300,000 people, okay? 500,000. This is your 0.5. So you can say 500,000. That's your point, about 0.25 or 0.3, a little above 1/4 of a million. Those are things that are encouraged, words that are encouraged for you to use. Please familiarize yourself with tens and hundreds and thousands and millions, especially when you are going to do all these line graphs and the bar charts where they will quote numbers. Okay, it's when you get to things like what's it called, pie charts. You have percentages in pie charts, and that's where you're going to be talking about 1/5 percent, about 25%, this 100% and all. The whole thing, the whole pie chart is 360, isn't it? It's 360 degrees, 360%, for example. And then they will share them into different percentage of that 100. And then you can use the other ones. When you have 50%, for example, you know that it is half of that thing, isn't it? When you have 25%, you know that it is 1/4 of that thing. When you have 20, it's 1/5 of that thing. Okay. When you have 75, is 3/4. I mean, 3/4 of that thing. So you need to familiarize yourself with those things so that they can flow in for you more easily. Instead of saying zero, zero is nothing. No. You You need to quote exactly what it is in this case, yeah? However, the visitors that stayed on the island, I told you to separate your paragraphs. If you had separated your paragraphs and used the right words, I will give you your full mark for this one, because obviously you are the only one that tried to capture like every bit of this variable here, which is very good, but that your task arrangement, you have missed out greatly. You completed the task, yes, you will get the mark for task achievement, but your coherence and cohesion, your mark there is very low because there's no understanding between your work. I can't understand your work and the flow is not proper. Okay, there's no clear progression of your work here. So you will lose mark for coherence and cohesion. And for grammatical range and accuracy, all of you that wrote and I have seen so far, you have not done so well with your vocabularies at all, because I can't see the use of those words. You are using however, then you went to therefore. Therefore for what? Okay, however, the visitors that stayed on the island maintain the same rate of about 0.7 million, of about 700. The people were about 700, okay, 700,000 during the first 2 years. Thereafter, that's good. Please remember when to bring in your comma and full stop. That's about 700, whatever, in 2 years, full stop. Thereafter should be a capital letter T to start that statement on that same line. Okay, thereafter it increased gradually to about what? 1.4. It looks like that 1.4 is about the highest, and then it peaked on that number in 2012. And then 1.5. Are you sure there's a 1.5? If there's a 1.5, then it's higher than 1.4, which is the peak. And I was telling you, remember to mention where it peaked, so that they know that you understand the terms that are related to the particular task that you are writing. Okay, overall, if you attempted this work, you have tried, but I am not very convinced, so you need to try it again. You need to get other line graphs, okay, and write. I will send in a line graph to the Telegram group. Like I said, there's a sister there that is also trying to correct some of your work. So just make sure you take those corrections and make good use of them. Use the feedback well to your advantage. I'll post in a picture so that you can write on in between the week. It's still the same line graph. So you familiarize, you put this correction that we have done in this class, yeah? You put it into practice in that one. And then at the end, you improve your writing and you are helping yourself. The line graph gives information about the travelers that visited the Caribbean, that visited a certain Caribbean island within 7 years. I don't need your 2010 and 2017 in brackets, please. Select one of them. Overall, it was seen. You can't say it is seen. It was seen, okay, that people who stayed, don't say that people that stayed. It's tautology. You are repeating yourself, isn't it? Yeah, people who stayed on the cruise ship, and wow, people who stayed. Why not use? Well, I had already done this correction in the first person. People who stayed on the cruise ship increased significantly over the period of years, while those on the island, all right, fluctuated throughout, although there was a period of stability or where it remained unchanged. You can use any of those words. You can use any of the phrases. A period of stability is okay, and then a period where it remained unchanged, it means it was stable, isn't it? There was no fluctuation. There was neither increase nor decrease in between. In 2010, good, it's a way to start. The tourists on is not correct. In 2010, the tourists, okay, on the cruise ship were a little below. Go ahead, all right, a little below. Please use more instead of using this 0.5, and the next line you are using 0.5 again. Why not use, like I said, 500,000 million and then 0.5 or 500,000? If you say 500,000 people and then the next place, instead of using 0.5, you say 500,000, you know you are still in line. You're saying the same thing in different ways, and it helps your vocabulary. It shows that you have enough words to use. This is a more better write-up. This one I'm reading now. Who is this? Chippy. But you've got so many repetitions. That's where the problem is. You need to know what word to use. Okay? In place of this thing. So if I were you, I'll copy my work from here again, put it somewhere else on my phone or somewhere, try to replace some of these words that we are using in this correction, and at the end of the day, you read it, you find out that you have a clearer understanding and you see yourself doing better in your writing, making it the highest. Similarly, travelers on the island is another paragraph, auntie. It should be another paragraph so that you can have your complete write-up, complete structure. All right, I think that's about all. Sorry, I didn't see this question on time. Your Cynthia, I didn't see it on time, and the class is fast spent. Meanwhile, this very diagram picture task is on the Telegram group. If you still want to do it, it's entirely up to you. If you don't want to do it, it's okay. Well, I'll still posting a line graph that you can do. Before we go, I'm going to introduce another thing so that we can flow better when we come with it by next week. All right. So next, in what we are doing today in task 1 is the pie chart. When you write a task 1, you should always group your data into like, logical groups. Put them in logical groups so that it can make it, you can make it easy for yourself to read, to write, and for your examiner to follow. Now, sometimes you can be given in all of this. For pie chart, sometimes you see a single pie chart or a double pie chart. It depends on what you are given. When you have a single pie chart, separate the variables into 2. Group this data so that you know what variables am I going to write about in paragraph 1 of my overview, and what variables am I picking in paragraph 2, which means you have a dividing line in your data generally. That will make it easier for you not to leave any data uncaptured, okay? Because if you leave data uncaptured, at the end of the day, your marks will be reduced for task completion or task achievement. When you have a double pie chart, the most logical thing to do usually is to compare the categories together across the chart when you have double. You need to focus on the similarities and the differences rather than writing about each chart separately. When you have double pie chart, similarities between these. So you do what I said before. You group the data in the 2 pie charts, divide them. This data has electricity, this one too has electricity, but the number here, the quantity or the amount or the percentage for electricity in this one is more or is less than this. So you pick electricity, you write about it in A and in B. That is one line. The next one you put, however, in addition, furthermore, all those linking words, cohesive devices, you put them in between to link the sentences together in your paragraph. Okay, so it's better for you to compare. Remember I said in maps, we've not gotten this in the previous classes. When we get to map, you will hear me say something like you writing about map 1 and then writing about map 2 if you have 2 maps. But in the case of pie charts, it's better for you to compare the variables together in chart 1 and in chart 2 than for you to write the whole thing about chart 1 and chart 2. Because what happens in pie chart is that there are different variables, different data that are captured in this pie chart, and they want you to compare the variables. There's no way you are going to compare these variables clearly. If you are writing about one pie chart, then the next one. So it's for you to capture this variable here, what's the difference, write about it. This variable here, pick your sister's call, tell them in the class. This variable here, pick them and compare them and write about them. Join them in your paragraph with your cohesive devices, making use of the words that are specific to pie charts. Percentage is majorly what is used in pie charts, okay? So that you can get your full marks from your examiner. How do you answer a pie chart when you see it? What are the steps? As I said before, you read the task, paraphrase your keywords, identify what kind of information. This information, is it about numbers? Is it about percentages? Okay. Is it in millions, like we just did? Is it in tens? Is it in hundreds, or what? What is inside this pie chart? You need to know what the information and the task is about. Then you now identify your highlights. What are those things? I mean, can I pick? You can see no matter what, pie chart is even easier for you to see which variable is high and which one is less or which one is small, because they are divided into portions, isn't it? So you know what variable is occupying what percentage in this chart. Then you work out your overall summary, mentioning your key points. You plan the structure by grouping this data. When you plan your structure, that is, this and this is paragraph 1, this and this is paragraph 2 of my overview. This information is in my overall statement. And now, this statement that they have given me as the question prompt is what I will have as my introduction. So I'm going to use these words and these words for my paraphrasing. These are the synonyms that I'm going to use. You remember that even though we're talking about you checking your phones and using synonyms, there are some synonyms that of a truth, they are the synonyms of those words, okay? But in some context, you can't use them. So you need to practice and familiarize yourself with what synonyms can be used in that context. You need to know that pie chart variables are figures that are expressed in percentages and must be reported using that unit. Okay? By our next class, do I have one of them here? I'll just summarize so we don't have to. By our next class, our first work in that class is going to be a pie chart. So if you think you know pie chart very well and you don't have to attend the next class, it's fine, okay? But if you think you need it, please, with this information I've just given us briefly, we're going to be solving a pie chart to see the practical of what we are talking about, okay? Meanwhile, in this class today, we were able to capture, I just discovered we have about 18 minutes to finish, so I can't start another question. I'll just summarize what we have been doing so you can follow. In this class today, we've talked about writing task 1. Writing task 1 generally is where you are expected to have not less than 150 words, and I advise us to have not more than 175 words. Please don't write less than 160. So your words, practice your words, your writing between 160 and 175. That should be your range, okay? In writing task 1, there is a structure where you have 3 paragraphs. Task 2 is 4 paragraphs. So if you have always been confused about this, know it now. The writing task 1 is 3 paragraphs. And the 3 paragraphs, the information in each of these paragraphs is dependent on the kind of question that you are asked. Overall, paragraph 1 is your introduction. The information in your introduction is a paraphrase of the question prompt and an overall statement written together. Your paragraph 2 and 3 is called the overview. The overview is the general write-up about the whole of your report. The information in your overview is everything about your report. Now, you use your sense to know what information comes in my first overview, which is your second paragraph, and in my third paragraph, which is your second overview paragraph. Depending on the kind of question you are asked, different things are written. For instance, when we did that bar chart in that class last week, we did say that we separated our variables into two. We picked that first part and we wrote about it in paragraph 1 of the overview. Then this other part in paragraph 2 of the overview, and we're able to capture the whole of our question. Today in this class, we did a line graph. And in that line graph, we had 3 things. The 3 things, one of them was the total. And the other one was the number of people on cruise ship and the number of people on the island. This whole question was about people that went on sightseeing, okay? They traveled for fun to a Caribbean island. And the whole thing happened over a period of 7 years from the year 2010 to 2017. We have done a classwork and we have corrected it. Now, for a line graph, you need to know that it can be static or it can be changed over time. What we did today was change over time because it was over a period of time. A static one is something that is maybe in 1 year, and they are saying that these are the number of people that traveled to or that bought fish in 2010. That's what you will see, just 1 year, just one particular period, okay, or in May or in June. The structure is the same with every other structure. We have said it already. When the trend is unchanged, it means it is stable, like we had it in one side of our overview, and then in our explanation as well for the other variable. You need to know the kind of words that you can use in relation to a line graph, and I mentioned a few of them. I told us the steps to writing a line graph, didn't I? The step is that you must read and understand the question, okay? And for every of your writing, you must understand the kind of information you have, whether it is numbers or percentages. For you to get a good introduction, ensure to underline your keywords and make use of the synonyms for those keywords. Plan your structure by grouping your data. Go ahead and answer your question. We said it and we have done the practical and we have done the correction. For you to put this into better practice, I'm going to post in one more question that is a line graph for you to write. You can write it and post it there. I may have time to check, or the other sister may have time to check. A few other people who are there who know about IELTS may be able to correct, and then you learn from it and you move on. For our next class, I have introduced pie chart. Pie chart is usually in percentages. You can have one pie chart, you can have two. When you have one pie chart, divide your variables into two. Write about one first, write about the other second. When you have double pie chart, separate both into two. Group the data, compare the different variables in the two pie chart, because that's what you are expected to do. Who does not understand? Michael, do you understand? Thank you. Chinwe, do you understand? But who does not understand and you didn't say anything?
I was trying to unmute myself.
You cannot unmute yourself unlike before again. Because of what is happening, we are changing the whole setting. Gradually we'll get there.
Okay, ma. I don't understand what you said about if I have double pie charts.
Good. So when you have double pie charts, you know that you have chart 1, chart 2. Okay? The good thing is the two charts will carry the same information, but different portions. Okay? Just as when you have one pie chart And I said you separate the variables into what? Into two, right? Good. So the two pie charts, separate the variable here into two, the variables here into two. Then compare the different size of the two variables. Do you understand? For instance, I have electricity, gas, water, what else? I'm looking for things to make it 4. Electricity, water, gas, and food. Okay? In this pie chart and in this pie chart. But for electricity in this pie chart, I have 45%. While here, I have 15%. So you are picking the electricity here and the electricity here, and you are comparing the two of them. Do you get the point now? So you separate this data into two, group this data into two, pick the data here, pick the data here, compare both of them. Write about it, use your words that are peculiar to pie charts to describe them. Put the correct cohesive devices in between them to make correct sentences. Add whatever you're adding to them to make them complex sentences in the paragraph. That's all you need to do. So divide this into two, write about this and this, compare them in one paragraph, write about that and that, compare them in the next paragraph, and you are good to go. That's all. Do you understand now?
Yes, ma'am.
Who else has a question? Who else has a question? Okay. I've asked you to unmute.
Okay. Good evening, ma'am. Well done, ma'am.
Thank you.
My question is pertaining the line graph we did. On the graph, there were 3 lines, one for those on the highland, one for those on the cruise ship, and the other one for the total.
Total, yeah.
So are we supposed to just talk about those on the highland and those on the cruise ship and forget about the total, or we'll also talk about it on a separate paragraph, or we compare?
Okay.
I don't understand.
We're not talking about it in a separate paragraph. If you were here at the beginning of the class, I did say that you should choose which of the variables you are going to add the part of the total with. I mentioned that from the beginning. So you choose which one. And I decided to choose the one that has less thing to write about, which looks like it was the people on the island. Okay? So then when you have finished, you just write in addition or finally, or maybe meanwhile, the total, yeah. Just another sentence added in that paragraph. Don't separate it. Although this kind of question, you hardly see it. You may not see, usually the kind of questions you will find now, that's an old question. Do you understand? But you may be surprised. You may be taken by surprise. That's why you need to have an idea of what the one I'm going to post will have a balanced variable. Now you have tested the one that is not balanced. Then you will do the one that is balanced and will correct it so that you can have an idea of how to go about the two of them when you see anything. Do you get my point?
Yes, I do.
I told us I'll post a line graph. I'm going to post a line graph with balanced data, balanced variable. Okay, balanced information for you to be able to like group them into whatever you want to group them into and write about them. For instance, maybe there are 6 things or there are 5 things, even number, so that you can write and you are sure that, okay, I pick 1, 2, 3, paragraph 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, paragraph 2, if that's the way you want to do it. So yes, you choose the side where you think you have less information and then you add the third one to it, which I have chosen mine as the one on the people on the island, because there's less to write about them than the people who were in the cruise ship.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other question? Our time is up. Just to apologize about that intruder coming in and all. You know, the whole thing is a social media thing, and everybody can see, anybody can come in and all of that. But we are taking our time to try to screen. If you had any issues coming back into the class after you have gone, it's because you did not have your video on. Automatically, you go out of the class when you don't have your videos on. That's like a rule we've been talking about. And instead of, you know, like there's still the option of you watching on the YouTube, okay? And then you can ask your questions on the Telegram group. And God helping us will be able to answer you. It may not be as timely as you think. And that's the purpose of the class. So you can be in the class and ask your question there and then, and it is tackled, instead of going through YouTube, through Telegram and all of that. And for you to benefit from that, you need to keep to the rules. So until we begin to obey rules and regulations, we can't move forward. And we want to move forward. That's why we have decided to take these measures. Deborah.
Okay, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yes, sure. Ma, please, I really need help. I need your help. Like, I find it difficult to view the
when we share.
Question and at the same time tag. Yes, because I want this thing I saw and tried to write something short on it. That was what happened. So please, I need your help. Kindly put me through, ma'am.
There's nothing I can do about those pictures other than to zoom it. The thing is, you need to type for us to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what you should do, I will advise, that's how I was telling you, time up, start posting in your work. It's not for you to, you can write in your book. You have writing material. Write it in your book. 5 minutes is enough to type. Yeah.
I thought there was a special way.
It's a way. It's not. That's the way I did it, or that's the way I do it. I write in the book. Sometimes I may not even develop the points in the book. I just put my points down in the book, and as I start typing, when I start typing, I will like start putting the words in between, because it's difficult for you to type, go back to Zoom, to screen, open, come back. You even make mistakes and you write with errors, isn't it? And if you have, except when you have 2 devices and you have a phone and a laptop and you are looking at it on your laptop, you are typing on your phone, but it's not always easy. It's not everybody. Even the one phone or the one laptop self, we are struggling with it, not to talk of having to consider the data and everything that it will be running on. We do understand these things, but unfortunately, this is the only way. I'm not in Nigeria currently for me to have a class and I see everybody come and gather in the class before Ministry of Health to come and carry us and say we're not doing social distancing, and all of us will end in prison. Baba just signed up something into law now, 6 months imprisonment for anybody that refuses to obey COVID-19 rules. Have you not read it? 6 months imprisonment. Yes, do we have enough prisons in Nigeria to accommodate? Anyway, please, we are health workers. You and I know that there have been so many controversies about COVID-19. The truth is COVID-19 is real. That's the truth. And it's killing people. People are dying from it. People are infected with it. So when I hear some health workers arguing, it baffles me. It's possible that our own government is not tackling and handling it the way they should, but that does not take away the fact that it is real and it is killing people. So please be safe. Even here, if you are more exposed to it, but there's much more protection. The government understands it. They agree that it exists, and they are taking measures. They are putting measures in place. You have everything that you need by their power for you to be able to fight as you work, okay? But you need to be very, very careful. Avoid too many gatherings, all those unnecessary outings. If there's no need for, you have enough exposures in the hospital already. Why are you exposing yourself again to it more and more? When you don't need to go anywhere, stay indoors and practice IELTS and pass. Stop going about. It's not all the weddings that you must attend. It's not all the naming ceremony. They are doing naming here, you are there. They finish from there, you jump Okada, you are going to the next place. Before you know, you are standing inside the market and hugging everybody that has not seen you in 10 years. My sister, my brother, let's be very, very careful. Let's be careful. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about the live classes other than what we are doing now. So you just need to help yourself. The thing is, if you practice and you are used to this, but your exam is easier for you. That's the truth. It's easier for you. If there's no other question, Deborah, you need to practice. Maybe you should be borrowing your husband's phone. Be using one to do this and use the other one. But it's more practical to write in your book and type, isn't it? Write in your book. Don't develop the points too much. While you are typing, you are correcting the errors. And because you have your video on, the class will not take you out. As long as you have your video on before you start typing, the highest thing is we may not see your face or you may not see us, but that it will show that your video is on. And when I talk or say hello or anything and you say something, you will come up and we can see. All right. So until next week again, I will see you. As for those that are in the waiting room all through today, I hope you have learned your lessons. Please come into the class with your videos on so that the class will not take you out automatically and you are there begging or trying to find your way back in and you are not in. If you are watching us on YouTube, thank you very much for joining the class today. Unfortunately, I am not able to come on YouTube to answer any questions. I know that you are gaining something. If you have pressing answers, questions that you need answers, you know what to do. The informations are all there. The information is all there really on the YouTube channel where you can send in your question to the Gmail, to the email address that is provided, and we will tackle it as much as possible to the best of our ability because we also have to go to work and all of that. So until next week, Thursday again, I will see you physically or virtually. Have a great time. Good night. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye.